After the failure of the World Revolution of 1848, radicals decided they needed to concentrate their efforts on the building of long-term formal organizations through which they would agitate for social change. One of the first major organizations they created was the IWMA, First International Workers Association. This was an international organization of socialists and workers that was organized on a federal basis. The federal structure operated through delegates elected and mandated by the rank and file of the organization. Within the international, syndicalism, anarchism, and Marxism germinated into coherent tendencies of the socialist movement. The schism between the anarchists and the Marxists would lead to the international's downfall. The Marxists and anarchists respectively adhered to two different strategic approaches which they wished to generalize within the social movements. The Marxists advocated organizational centralism, read organizational hierarchy, as well as participation in party politics. The anarchists rejected both of these things and instead advocated a horizontal organization and resistance to the state apparatus, which expresses itself through party politics. This debate can be simplified into the debate over what Professor Emanuel Wallerstein referred to as the two-step strategy. The two-step strategy is 1. Take state power, and 2. Use that power to change society. The proponents of that strategy saw that the state apparatus was the main political instrument of the capitalist world system. Thus, the might required to overcome that world system, according to them, was found in the coercive power of the state. The opponents saw the state as an elitist entity which could only preserve the inequalities manifest within the existing world system. They insisted on socio-cultural transformation in place of taking state power. This debate has been personalized in the interactions of two major figures of the socialist movement, Karl Marx and the Russian populist/anarchist Mikhail Bakunin. Bakunin argued that state socialism would simply re-subjugate the working masses to exploitation by technocratic bureaucracy. Marx argued that the ruling class would have to be fought on their own terrain. The personal dispute between the two is much less relevant in the competing strategic approaches they were fighting over. It is quite obvious that at times both men suffered a lack of personal moral scruples. Bakunin, contrary to his doctrine of classless and stateless human equality, bought into the odious ideology of anti-Semitism. Meanwhile, Marx called Bakunin a hermaphrodite when commenting on a passage in which Bakunin advocates gender equality. The end of the International was the result of manipulations by Marx and his comrades. They manufactured a majority at a Congress of the International at London, which they used to pass policies in favor of political parties and organizational centralism. They then made sure to organize the next Congress at The Hague, where it would be harder for their opponents to attend, enabling them to expel Bakunin. After this series of events, the International disintegrated. In this way, Marx and his comrades substantiated the anarchist opposition to centralist organization more than the anarchists themselves ever could have, showing its conspiratorial elitist nature, ironically adjectives often levied at Bakunin. The opponents of these manipulations, such as the Swiss Jura Federation, organized an entirely new international. Historian Vadim Demir called this the, quote, Federalist IWMA, unquote. According to him, quote, the Jura Federation organized an extraordinary Congress of the IWMA at St. Amir in September of 1872. The delegates from the Italian and the Spanish federations, from some the French and 2 American sections attended. The Congress recognized the activities of the Hague Congress as illegal and accused the General Council of abuse of authority. The Treaty of Friendship and Solidarity between the federations and anti-authoritarian groups was adopted. It said that unity must be based not on an artificial organization of the central authorities, but on the identity of the interests of the proletarians of different countries and on the voluntary union of federations. The participating federations pledged to aid each other without direct links to any central authority and to support each other in the fight against any encroachments on their rights. The Congress rejected the struggle for political power because any political organization cannot be anything other than the organization of power in favor of a particular class and to the detriment of the masses of the proletariat, and therefore the proletariat, if it wants to seize political power, inevitably would have to become a dominant and exploiting class. The Congress declared the goal of the International the destruction of all political power through a general strike, because the destruction of all political power is the first duty of the proletariat, and any revolutionary government is no less dangerous to it than the present. Unquote. Unfortunately, a reformist wing cropped up in the Federalist International, which led to its dissolution and the osmosis of the reformist state socialists into the Marxist Social Democratic movement. The Social Democratic Second International expelled the anarchists in 1896, but social democracy would not prevail for long. Around the turn of the century, late 19th to early 20th, revolutionary syndicalism emerged as an alternative to social democracy. It was a movement of militant revolutionary unions carrying out class struggle. It was populated by organizations such as the FAUD in Germany, French CGT, Italian USI, the Argentine FORA, the Uruguayan FORU, and the Spanish CNT. After World War I, the FAUD helped form a new international in defiance of the Bolshevik-led Union International. Despite the turbulations of another world war, fascism, and the rise of state socialism, the new International Workers' Association, politically anarcho-syndicalist, survived to the present day. It carries on the spirit of the Federalist IWMA and the anarchists of the original IWMA through its dedication to the anarcho-syndicalist rejection of the two-step strategy in favor of horizontal organization and anti-political class struggle. Today, the IWA has seen an expansion to the Asian continent with organizations like BASF in Bangladesh and PPAS in Indonesia. What the rise of anarcho-syndicalist organizations in Asia affiliated with the IWA shows is the failure of state socialism and the opening of possibilities for an alternative anti-capitalist socialist movement. Asia, along with the rest of the Third World, was the geographic locus of the creation of anti-colonial and socialist states in the 20th century. These states achieved the process of the destruction of the overt colonial order dominant in the 19th century and the rise of movements to power that were against the capitalist world system and their aims. Unfortunately, the requirements of state power were political and economic integration into that same world system. States need geopolitical recognition from the other states in the system and need to take a direct part in the processes of the world economy. As such, the right of nations to self-determination became a gift extended to the rest of the world by the hegemonic power of the time, the United States, and socialism became the standard economic policy of all the states of the capitalist world economy, that being state-led development. In the 70s, the world economy experienced a structural crisis of overproduction, one which is ongoing to this very moment. And as such, the state as a functioning political mechanism has begun to crumble. Thus, in the Third World, state socialism and traditional national liberation were integrated into the capitalist world system, which is now crumbling before our very eyes. The result is that we are now faced with an opportunity, both in the Third World as well as everywhere else, for the construction of a new socialist movement based on the anti-state ideas of direct class struggle long held by the anarcho-syndicalist movement. This video was a request from a financial backer. If you want to request a video or blog post on a specific topic, you can either donate $20 or more to my PayPal, or you can become a $10 or more patron on my Patreon. Another benefit of becoming a patron, specifically a $15 or more patron, is that you will be allowed into a Discord where me and my friends regularly post. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. Even if you don't want to do any of those things to get the perks, you can still become a patron or do a one-time PayPal donation of whatever amount you think you can contribute. I would very much appreciate that as well. Barring all that, again, hope you enjoyed, and yeah, see you next time.